My name is Maria Lopez, and I never thought I'd be telling this story. I wasn't special. I didn't have a big ministry or a famous name. I was just a caregiver from Cebu, waking up every morning to serve others and love my son the best I could. I was ordinary until the night I died. It happened on a Tuesday, October 12th, 2023, a day that began like any other. I woke up at 5:30 a.m. to the soft sound of rain tapping on the tin roof. The kitchen smelled like leftover rice and instant coffee. My son was still asleep in the other room. I whispered a short prayer, just a quiet "Thank you, Lord," before putting on my faded blue uniform and heading out to the care home. I spent the whole day helping patients, massaging an old woman's legs, feeding an uncle with dementia, wiping down chairs, praying silently as I worked. It was tiring, but this was my life, and I loved it. I didn't know it would be my last day on earth. At 6:17 p.m., I left work early to pick up bread for my son's dinner. I was excited to surprise him. He had begged me all week for pan de coco. I turned on my small red car, clicked the radio to my favorite worship station, and started driving through the light Cebu rain. That's when it happened. Out of nowhere, a blinding light. Not from heaven, but headlights. A truck out of control hydroplaning straight toward me. I froze. My hands gripped the wheel. My mouth whispered, "Jesus." And then impact. Metal screamed, glass shattered. My chest slammed forward. Then, silence. Everything faded. No pain, no screaming, just nothing. Then, I opened my eyes, but I wasn't in my car anymore. I was above it, floating, watching. I saw the mangled vehicle. I saw people running. I saw a young man, maybe in his 20s, kneel beside my body and shout, "Ma'am, stay with me." But I couldn't answer. I had no voice, no body. I had left it behind. I should have felt fear, but I didn't. I felt peace. Strange, unnatural peace. Then, something shifted. I looked to the right and suddenly, there was light. Not ordinary light. This light was alive. It didn't blind me. It embraced me. Warm, golden, pure. And then, I heard it. A voice. Gentle, powerful, familiar. Yet nothing I had ever heard on earth. "Maria, come." My soul trembled. I didn't see him yet, but I knew. I knew exactly who it was. Jesus. And in that moment, everything inside me said yes. Before I died, I never saw myself as someone God would choose for anything extraordinary. I was a simple woman, born and raised in a small barangay near Cebu City. My father was a fisherman, my mother a prayer warrior. Life was never easy, but we had faith, and that faith was everything. I was the eldest of 5. By the time I was 16, I had already learned how to carry a baby on my hip while cooking rice over charcoal. My dreams were never grand, just survival, just peace. I married young, too young, and when the man I thought would love me forever disappeared after our son was born, I was left alone, abandoned, ashamed. But I never stopped loving. Not my child, not people, not even the strangers I cared for every day as a caregiver. That was the thing about me. I loved deeply even when it hurt. Every morning I walked into rooms filled with suffering and loneliness. Some patients screamed, some stared blankly at the ceiling, others begged not to be left alone. And I stayed. I held their hands. I sang songs to them. I listened when no one else did. One woman, ailing Rosa, used to grip my wrist and whisper, "You're not like the others. You see me." I'd just smile and say, "God sees you too, Nay," because I believed it. But I won't lie, there were days when I felt invisible. Days when the world moved too fast and I felt like a background character in everyone else's life. I prayed in secret, asking God, do you see me too? I never expected an answer. I never expected that my ordinary life, my unseen kindness, my quiet sacrifices meant anything in the great unfolding of heaven. But Jesus did. And in the moments after the crash, as my spirit drifted closer to the light, I realized something I never understood on earth. Every small act of love matters. I remembered a moment just a week before my accident. A man came into the care home shouting at his father. Everyone looked away, but I touched his shoulder and said, "You don't have to carry that anger." He froze like my words pierced something deeper. I thought he ignored me. Now I saw it differently. From above, I saw angels surround him as I spoke. I saw how my voice broke through the noise in his heart. Heaven had seen it. God had seen it. That moment mattered. They all did. All the times I smiled when I was tired. All the times I forgave when I could have fought. All the times I helped without being thanked. Heaven keeps track of things the world throws away. And then, I remembered my son, Jacob, 10 years old. Sweet, curious, always asking big questions like, "Mom, does God ever get tired of loving people?" I'd always tell him no, but now, I was beginning to truly understand why. Because love, real love, is never wasted. As I drifted through the glowing space between worlds, my thoughts turned to him. Would he be okay without me? Who would take care of him? Who would pray for him at night? That's when I felt something behind me. Warmth, peace, a presence. I turned, and he was there. Jesus. Not as an image in a painting, not as a statue in a church. He was real, radiant, strong, gentle beyond human understanding. And when he looked at me, I knew I was not forgotten. "Maria, you were never unseen. Not one moment of your love was lost." Tears filled my soul. Not because I was afraid, but because for the first time in my life, I felt completely known. Not judged, not rejected, just loved. Fully. He stepped closer, his eyes shining like rivers of fire and mercy. I fell to my knees, not out of fear, but because my spirit recognized him as everything I had ever searched for. "I have something to show you, Maria, and when you see it, your voice will matter more than ever before." The light pulsed around us, and suddenly, the journey truly began. The light grew brighter, but not in a way that hurt. It was as if it was made of love itself, alive, embracing infinite. Maria could feel her soul expanding, stretching beyond time and fear and pain. And then, there was silence. Not empty, sacred. A figure emerged. He didn't need an introduction. Deep within her soul, Maria knew it was Jesus. His presence radiated more than light. It radiated truth. It wasn't just what he looked like, though his face was unlike anything on earth. It was how she felt in his presence, whole seen and completely known. His eyes, they held the wisdom of eternity and the tenderness of a father who never stopped waiting for his child to come home. "Maria, you are loved. You have always been loved, even when you couldn't see it." Tears burst from her eyes, not from sadness, but from release. It was as if every wound, every shameful moment, every fear she had buried deep in her heart was being lifted away, burned out by the warmth of his love. I don't deserve this," Maria whispered, barely able to speak. "No one earns love, Maria. It is given, freely. You were created for it." Then he reached out his hand. The moment he touched her, Maria's mind was opened like a floodgate. She began to see visions, not dreams. Memories of her childhood replayed, but from a higher perspective. Every moment she thought no one saw her. Jesus had been there. When she wept alone in her bedroom, when she held her tongue instead of retaliating, when she helped strangers without seeking credit. Every tiny act of kindness, mattered. The memories then shifted. She saw others people she didn't know around the world. People helping suffering, praying, hurting. A nurse in Sudan kneeling in a tent after a night shift. A mother in Argentina lighting a candle before a photo of her missing son. A teenage boy in Manila resisting the pressure to join a gang. And above them all, she saw threads of light connecting, weaving, guiding. Then a sudden, overwhelming sadness swept across Jesus' face. Why? Why are you sad? Maria asked, her voice shaking. Because my children have forgotten me. They follow the noise of the world, but they do not hear my voice anymore. Maria felt it. The heaviness of a world distracted, divided, disoriented. She saw churches filled with people, but their hearts were empty. She saw children growing up without knowing they were loved. She saw marriages fall apart because of pride. She saw violence justified by race, by politics, by fear. It was a battlefield, but not one fought with guns or fists. It was spiritual, and humanity was losing. What can I do? Maria whispered, overwhelmed. Look, and I will show you. Not just what is, but what is coming. Suddenly, she was standing beside him, but not on earth. It was a realm outside of time, where the future was not set, but unfolding. The light around her shifted to gray. Jesus' tone deepened. The visions he was about to reveal were not to frighten her, but to prepare her. And just before the next scene unfolded, he touched her heart once more. Do not fear, Maria. What you see will shake you, but you were chosen to see it, because you still have work to do. She held her breath. Then everything changed. Maria stood still, enveloped by a light that pulsed like a heartbeat as Jesus raised his hand. Without speaking, he motioned, and the space around them shifted again. The heavenly realm faded, replaced by a panoramic vision of the earth. But it wasn't the earth as seen from space, it was the earth as seen from the spirit. Cities pulsed with spiritual energy, but many were dim, clouded in smoke like darkness that hung low like a poisonous fog. Maria instinctively recoiled, but Jesus held her hand and gave her courage. Suddenly, the focus zoomed in on a scene: a classroom in Manila, a church in Atlanta, a protest in Johannesburg. She saw people all different colors, angry, bitter, suspicious. Faces twisted in pain and resentment. Then she saw the spiritual realm behind each scene. Dark shadows slithered between them, whispering lies into human ears. They weren't ghosts, but forces of deception, ancient and cunning. Maria looked closely. This is not just conflict, it is a strategy. The enemy does not use swords. He uses identity. Division, resentment, pride lies hidden in history and culture, and too many believe him. She watched as the spirits whispered to the hearts of black children. They will never value you. You are nothing. Rise in rage. And to white children, you are born guilty. They will never forgive you. Retreat in shame. Maria covered her mouth as tears welled up. She saw wounds being reopened, not by people but by shadows feeding on generational trauma. In another scene, she saw two neighbors, one black, one white, once friends, now distant. Not because of anything said, but because of what they had absorbed from the world around them. Social media feeds filled with rage, news outlets stoking fear, church sermons avoiding truth for comfort. They are not each other's enemies. They are all my children. But the enemy has rewritten their stories, weaponized their pain, and built a false war to distract from the real one. Maria trembled. She saw the cross radiant and majestic standing in the center of a battlefield. But no one looked at it. They were too busy throwing words like daggers at each other. Racist Victim Oppressor entitled. She saw people trying to shout their way to justice, but the louder they screamed, the more deaf the world became. Then, a sudden shift. She saw Jesus himself walking into the chaos. He didn't shout. He knelt. He washed the feet of both the accused and the accuser. He spoke truth to both sides. Some wept and dropped their weapons. Others screamed louder, angry that their pain had been interrupted by grace. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is warfare against the real enemy. Love is not passive. It is rebellion against hate. Reconciliation is not erasure. It is restoration. But they must choose it. Then Maria saw something terrifying. A vision of the future. Politicians using race like a currency. Celebrities preaching division for applause. Even pastors afraid to speak truth because of backlash. Meanwhile, the spirits danced in the chaos undisturbed as long as no one named them. She saw people turning to movements, hashtags, even violence searching for justice. But the justice they found was poison. Revenge disguised as righteousness. Guilt marketed as empathy. Division sold as identity. Maria, what the world calls justice without me, becomes another chain. I do not erase history, but I redeem it. And I will heal the wounds, but only truth can cleanse them. Maria broke down in sobs. Lord, how do they not see it? He looked into her soul. Because they do not ask me. They ask culture, they ask politics, they ask pride, but they do not ask me. She then saw a vision of a Filipino boy about 9 years old, watching a video full of hate. A tear slipped down his cheek. In another city, a white teenage girl afraid to speak at school because of her race. Both of them confused. Both of them loved by God. Both being shaped by a world that had forgotten him. Suddenly, the sky cracked. A rumble like thunder. And Maria saw what was hidden behind the scenes. An ancient spiritual throne of deception. Demons laughing as humans argued. The throne was built not on truth, but on pain history and misused scripture. This throne will fall. I will tear it down, but first my people must stop kneeling to it. Maria looked up. She saw glimmers of light in the darkness, small groups of believers of all races, holding hands praying. Speaking truth in love, not political truth, not cultural bias, kingdom truth. These were warriors, not influencers, not celebrities, just faithful souls refusing to kneel to the lies. And then silence. Maria turned. Jesus, what do I do with all this? He stepped closer. Tell them. Show them. Not with anger, not with debate, with love, with truth. My truth. Some will hate you for it. Some will silence you. But some will awaken. And that is enough. The vision faded. The battlefield dimmed. And all that was left was Maria standing in the light, breathless, broken, but burning with purpose. The light faded, slowly, like the curtain being drawn on a sacred stage. And then, the cold, the weight, the pain. Maria gasped as her spirit crashed back into her body. The once light and flowing sensation of the heavenly realm was gone, replaced by the sharp tightness in her chest, the beeping of hospital monitors, and the overwhelming gravity of the physical world. Her eyes flickered open, fluorescent lights above, pale ceiling tiles, the sterile scent of antiseptic. She was back. Her sister Carla stood at her bedside, tears falling silently. Maria, oh God, you're awake, she whispered, clutching her hand as though she might disappear again. But Maria could barely speak. Her body felt foreign, like a prison she'd outgrown. The images she had seen still burned behind her eyes. The tunnel, the visions, the chains, the light. the face of Jesus. She wanted to scream everything, every word he had spoken, every truth he had shown. But her voice was caught beneath the weight of it all. Her mission had begun, but where would she even start? The following days were not what Maria expected. While her body slowly healed, her spirit burned with urgency. But when she tried to share her experience, most dismissed it as trauma-induced hallucination. Her pastor gently warned her not to confuse people. A friend suggested she pray quietly and move on. It was worse than rejection, it was dismissal. Maria lay awake at night, staring at the ceiling, whispering into the silence. Lord, did I misunderstand you? Why send me back if no one listens? The reply came not in thunder, but as a still whisper in her heart. Maria, the seed is not judged by who hears it, but by whether it is sown. Speak truth, and I will water it. She wept silently, not because she doubted him, but because she doubted herself. She remembered the final thing he had shown her before returning 2 roads, one wide glittering filled with ease and applause, the other narrow, steep, and lined with thorns. She already knew which one he had walked. And now, so must she. Maria decided to write. She filled journal after journal with the vision she saw: the deception in technology, the engineered division, the false peace the world would embrace in exchange for their freedom. She described the faces of those deceived and the warriors of light who refused to bow. But there were days she faltered, days when the burden felt too heavy, days when darkness whispered, "No one cares, no one will listen." One night during one of these episodes of despair, Maria dreamt of standing in a massive empty church. It was silent. Dust hung in the air. But at the far end, near the altar, a candle flickered. She walked toward it. As she approached, she saw her own reflection in the glass holder. Weary, worn, but alive. Even one candle can shatter the darkness, Maria. You are not alone. She awoke in tears. But this time, they were tears of resolve. She started recording videos raw, trembling honest. She spoke about what she had seen, about the spiritual war raging beneath our politics, our media, our divisions. She spoke about the lies that pit brother against sister, white against black, poor against rich, and the system that benefits from it all. She spoke about identity, how it was stolen the moment we began defining ourselves by labels and not by who we were in God's eyes. Some people laughed, some unsubscribed, some called her delusional, but others wept. One message came from a young woman who said she had been contemplating suicide, but Maria's testimony reminded her of her worth. Another came from a white man who said he'd carried generational guilt in his soul. But when Maria said, "There is no black, no white, only God's children," something broke inside him, and something healed. And so Maria continued. She stood in front of a dark world, not as a prophet, not as a preacher, but as a witness, a living candle. Her voice, quiet but unshaken, carried the truth that we were being deceived, that the system promising safety was laced with spiritual poison, that the implants, the screens, the manipulation, they were only the beginning, and that Jesus still waits on the narrow road. That night, Maria sat beneath the stars and whispered a prayer of surrender. "Well done, faithful daughter. For every voice raised in truth, the kingdom rejoices." She smiled, because now she understood. Not everyone would hear, but some would, and for those few, the truth could still set them free. Returning to my body wasn't the miracle I thought it would be. The moment I opened my eyes in that hospital bed, I was met not with celebration, but with confusion, disbelief, and even resistance. My family stood around me, their eyes wide with shock and relief. But beneath the surface, I could sense it, They couldn't understand the weight I carried, the fire in my bones. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry, my chest aching. Days passed, and the doctor said I was lucky to be alive. But I didn't feel lucky. I felt burdened, because I had seen the truth and I couldn't unsee it. I had met Jesus, and he had given me a mission. But now I was trapped between two worlds, one divine and clear, the other deaf, blind, and comfortably numb. When I told my sister about the visions, she smiled politely, but quickly changed the subject. My pastor, the man I trusted to understand, told me to be careful to test every spirit and not scare people with stories of the end times. Even my closest friend, who had always called me her spiritual rock, laughed nervously and said, "Girl, maybe it was just the medication." It crushed me. How could they not see? How could they not feel it? I began to understand something Jesus had warned me about, that sharing the truth would not be easy, that even those closest to us might reject what heaven reveals. I cried out in prayer, desperate for comfort, and then I felt it again. His presence. Not in the same way as before, but a deep, undeniable stirring in my soul. "Dorina, they do not reject you, they reject me. But still you must speak. One voice may be ignored, but many voices awaken the world." And so I began. I wrote everything down, every image, every word, every moment of that radiant encounter. I prayed for boldness, then shared my story online. At first, only a few responded. Some called me delusional, some mocked me. But then, messages began to come in. Quiet ones, private ones, from strangers, saying I saw something similar, or I felt the same stirring in my spirit. One woman wrote, "I had a dream of glowing implants, just like you described, and I thought I was going crazy." Another man said I was about to accept an underskin chip for work access. "Your video stopped me in my tracks." I cried when I read those words. Not tears of sadness this time, but tears of confirmation. I wasn't alone. But as the truth spread, so did the opposition. My account was flagged. Some videos were taken down. Even people from my church distanced themselves, saying I was causing division. But I knew it wasn't me causing division. It was the truth, shining light into dark corners. One night, I sat alone in my room, feeling the weight of rejection, the sting of being misunderstood. And I asked God, "Why me? Why did you show me all this?" Just for me to be torn apart for speaking it. "Because you are willing, Dorina. Because your love is greater than your fear. Because I do not call the qualified, I qualify the called." That night, something shifted in me. I stopped worrying about who believed me and started focusing on who needed to hear it. I began speaking in small gatherings, churches, coffee shops, even parks. Sometimes 5 people came, sometimes 50. But every time someone wept, someone asked questions, someone began to see. I met ex-addicts who saw the system's deception, young people who refused the narrative being forced upon them, mothers who prayed over their children with renewed urgency. I wasn't just sharing a testimony, I was witnessing revival, one soul at a time. But with every breakthrough came resistance. I started noticing strange emails, warnings, veiled threats. Someone even posted my home address online. Fear tried to creep in, but it couldn't stay. Because I had already stood before Jesus. I had already heard his voice. And once you've heard that kind of love, that kind of authority, no human threat can silence you. One night as I prayed over my son while he slept, I felt a deep sob rise from within me. Not of fear, but of urgency. This generation, our children, they are the target. The enemy isn't just trying to control them, he's trying to erase them, their identity, their faith, their future. I remembered the line of souls Jesus showed me, pure, glowing, full of purpose, each one sent to earth with divine gifts. And yet, so many never realize who they are. The world distracts them, divides them, devours them. You are not just warning them, Dorina. You are reminding them who they are, and that is more powerful than any lie. And so I keep going, even when it hurts, even when I'm tired, because I've seen what's coming, and I've seen the only one who can save us. The world will call you crazy until they can no longer deny the truth. And when that day comes, they will remember the ones who spoke while it was still dark. The night it all came together was unlike any other. I was alone, praying, journaling, when suddenly I felt the air change. Not just emotionally, but spiritually. A heaviness filled the room, not of fear, but of divine urgency. I knew Jesus was about to speak again. The lights flickered for a moment, and the wind outside my window went still. And then it was as if time paused. My vision blurred, and I was taken again, not in body, but in spirit, back to that realm of light and revelation. This time I stood not in a tunnel, not in a city, but in a vast open battlefield. It stretched for miles without end. But there was no fire, no smoke, only people. Thousands, millions, standing shoulder to shoulder, blindfolded, unmoving, each holding a glowing object in their hands. It looked like a phone or a digital device, but it pulsed with something deeper. Control. I tried to cry out to them, but they couldn't hear me. Their ears were closed. Their eyes were covered. And then, I saw him. Jesus stepped forward. His robe flowed with light. His presence pierced the fog like a rising sun. And in that moment, every fiber of my being trembled, not in fear, but in the awe of divine sorrow. This is the final battle, Dorina, and they do not even know they are in it. I gasped. Why won't they move? Why won't they drop the devices? Because the enemy has made them comfortable in captivity. I looked again, and now I saw demons not with horns or fire, but cloaked as comfort, as entertainment, as social validation. They whispered lies into people's ears. You're safe, you're good, you don't need to question. Everyone is doing it. I fell to my knees. They were created for eternity, but they are choosing convenience. They were meant to reign with me, but they have traded truth for trends. Suddenly, the sky above darkened. Thunder rumbled, but it came not from clouds, but from voices. Angels began to cry out, and their voices split the sky with power. It was the sound of warning, of love that refuses to be silent. And then Jesus pointed to the ground beneath the people. It began to crack. Light shone beneath, and I realized it was not destruction. It was truth trying to break through. There is still time. Some will awaken, some will hear my voice. I saw small sparks, pockets of light, where people were breaking free. They tore off their blindfolds. They dropped the glowing devices. They looked up, and when they did, they saw him. And the moment they saw Jesus, they wept. Not in fear, but in recognition. They had known him once, as children, in dreams, in whispered prayers. But they had forgotten. Now, they remembered. Then I saw the enemy, not with fire or horns, but with a smile. A leader, charismatic, persuasive. His image projected across cities. His voice smooth as silk. And with each word he spoke, chains tightened on those who still held their devices. And Jesus' voice thundered. This is the one who comes in his own name. He promises peace but brings deception. He offers unity but enforces control. This is the counterfeit. I could barely breathe. Lord, how do we stop him? By telling the truth, by refusing the lie, by choosing me even when the world chooses comfort. Then I saw a terrifying thing. A line stretching across the battlefield, dividing light from dark. It was invisible at first, but as each person made a choice, it appeared. Those who woke up stepped to one side. Their faces shone, their hands empty, their eyes open. The others stayed frozen. Devices clutched, blindfolds on, eyes down. Some screamed in rage when truth was spoken. Others wept, but stayed frozen in fear. I turned to Jesus again. Is this the end? It is the beginning of decision. The storm will come. The deception will grow. But so will my light. And then he looked me in the eyes so deeply, I felt my soul unravel. Tell them, Dorina. Tell them that they must choose. The time of neutrality is ending. There is no middle road. There is only surrender or resistance, truth or deception, me or the world. Then the vision faded. I was back in my room. Tears soaked my shirt. My heart thundered like war drums. And in that moment, I knew. This is not just a warning for someday. This is for now. The battle has begun. Not with guns or armies, but with ideas, loyalties, choices, and every soul must decide. Since the day I returned, nothing in my life has been the same. The visions, the voice of Jesus, the sorrow in his eyes, the urgency in his words, they burn inside me every time I see people scrolling their phones, endlessly divided by politics, race, fear, and convenience. And I realize the battle he showed me. It's already happening. It's here. It's now. This story isn't about me. It never was. It's about you. It's about all of us. About what we are choosing every single day. Dorina, tell them I am calling. Not with fear, but with love. Not with force, but with freedom. My children must remember who they are. I gave them purpose. I gave them light. But they must choose to walk in it. He didn't send me back to start a religion. He didn't send me back to shame or scare. He sent me back with one command. Tell them the truth. That you were created for more than chasing likes, money, or control. Your skin color was never your identity. Your heart is. The real enemy isn't the person who disagrees with you. It's the voice behind the curtain that wants you to hate them. Technology may promise connection, but it can also become a leash. You still have a choice. We still have a chance. Even if the world laughs, even if the news calls us crazy, even if friends walk away, the truth must be louder than the lie. I'm just one voice, a woman from nowhere who died on a rainy Tuesday night and woke up with heaven burning in her bones. But if this story stirred something inside you, if even a part of it made your heart whisper, yes, I felt this too, then I know you're one of us, one of the watchers, one of the voices, one of the lights in this darkening world. And now, it's your turn. Don't keep this to yourself. If you feel what I felt, if you see what I saw, help spread the light. Subscribe to this channel so you don't miss what comes next. Like this video to push it into the hands of someone who needs it. Comment below if this message woke something in you or if you just need someone to pray with you. Share it with someone who's still asleep. Someone who still believes the lie that it's all going to be fine. And above all, pray. Pray for eyes to open, for courage to rise, for the strength to walk the narrow road. The easy path is full, but the road of truth is still open. And Jesus, He is still waiting at the end, arms wide open. I do not give up on my people, not ever. Even now I am calling, even now I am knocking. Blessed are those who open the door. If you hear Him, don't wait. You are not born to blend in. You are born to shine.